Have you noticed that something has changed? Do you wake up with morning erections less often? Do you feel tired earlier in the day than you used to? It's not just aging. These are signs your body is trying to tell you something. Today, we'll talk about 5 simple ways to support your male health. Without pills, without expensive treatments. Just practical things you can start doing this week. Let's start with something simple, getting your blood moving every day. You might be surprised how much this one habit impacts your intimate health. After 60, our blood vessels naturally become less flexible, and if we spend most of the day sitting, and whether it's in a recliner, watching TV, or even reading, the circulation slows down more than we notice. And here's the thing. Erectile function depends heavily on healthy blood flow. If your circulation is sluggish, your body simply can't deliver blood where it needs to go when it matters. Many men don't realize it, but even short periods of physical inactivity can contribute to problems that seem unrelated until the issue shows up in the bedroom. The good news: this is one of those areas where small, steady changes really do add up, no matter how late you start. I've seen it firsthand. I work with older adults, and this topic comes up more often than you'd think. A man named Frank, who's 71 and lives in Ohio, told me his story during a group wellness session. He used to work as a bus driver, then retired and slowed down. No real exercise, just occasional errands. At first, he laughed off the changes he noticed. Fewer spontaneous erections, less energy in the mornings, and what he called a general quiet down there. But eventually it bothered him enough to bring it up to his doctor, who told him that, truth in plain terms, his blood wasn't circulating the way it used to, and it was affecting everything. Around the same time, another man in our group, Arthur, 67 from Arizona, shared that walking after meals not only helped with his digestion and sleep, but also gave him back a feeling of aliveness he hadn't felt in years. Neither of these guys started going to the gym or lifting weights. They just built in short walks, added a few stretches during TV commercials, and slowly noticed changes. What helps most men in this situation is building a small routine they can stick with. Walking for 20 minutes twice a day, ideally after meals, is a great start. I often suggest 5 minutes of gentle movement right when you wake up and again before bed. Arm circles, reaching toward the ceiling, slow twists at the waist. These aren't exercises in the way you might remember from your younger years. They're more like reminders to your body that it still matters, that it's still needed, that it still works. You don't have to go fast, you just have to go forward. Explained how that kind of sugar load every day was putting pressure on his system and likely affecting his testosterone. He was skeptical, but agreed to make changes. Another patient, George, 72 from California, had a similar experience. Once he swapped his nightly pie for a handful of almonds and cheese and changed his breakfast to eggs instead of toast and jelly, he said something just woke up again inside him after a few weeks. Neither of these men went on extreme diets. They just made quiet shifts, and the results were noticeable. One of the most effective ways to support your testosterone is to reduce the amount of sugar you eat each day, especially the kind you don't even think about. What helps many older men is starting with just 2 changes. Replace sweet snacks after dinner with something like walnuts, plain Greek yogurt, or a slice of hard cheese, and begin your mornings with a protein-based breakfast, eggs, cottage, cheese, or even leftovers from last night's dinner. These simple swaps help stabilize your insulin and allow your natural hormones to work without interference. You don't need to count every gram. You just need to be mindful of what's showing up on your plate again and again. Think of it this way. Your body is still capable of producing the energy and drive you remember. It just needs the right conditions. When you cut down on sugar, it's not a punishment and it's a kindness. You're giving your system a break, a chance to reset. And often just that small act of awareness is enough to bring back a part of yourself you thought was gone. Another important reminder: don't underestimate the power of touch and connection. A lot of men over 60 focus only on the physical side of intimacy, but what often goes unnoticed is how much emotional closeness matters too. Our bodies respond to more than just stimulation. They respond to safety, warmth, and human presence. When you go through loss, loneliness, or just the quiet distance that can come with aging, your emotional world starts to shrink, and along with it, your natural desire can shrink too. There's a hormone called oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, that's released through things as simple as a hug, a kind touch, or even a real conversation. And oxytocin plays a much bigger role in men's libido than most people think. Without those small connections, it's like the engine cools down, not broken, just quieted. I've worked with older adults for years, and I can't tell you how many times this comes up when we're not even talking about intimacy directly. One man, Henry, who's 74 and from Michigan, shared with me that after his wife passed, he slowly withdrew, not just from dating or relationships, but from people in general. He stopped going to church, stopped calling his kids as often, and found himself watching more TV just to fill the silence. When we talked about how he was feeling physically, he said, "I just don't feel that spark anymore." Not surprising. His world had gotten smaller, and so had his sense of emotional contact. Then one day his grandson came to visit and gave him a long hug without saying a word. Henry told me that moment hit harder than he expected, like something soft inside him woke up. He made a quiet decision to start reconnecting. He began greeting people with a handshake instead of a nod, hugging his daughter every time she visited, and even joined a weekly board game group at the local rec center. After a few weeks, he said the emptiness had started to lift, and though nothing huge changed overnight, the feeling of being more alive was slowly returning. What helps in these cases is making simple contact part of your daily life again. One of the easiest things you can do is start offering hugs when you see people you care about, your kids, your grandkids, your friends. Even just putting a hand on someone's shoulder or sitting a little closer during a conversation builds emotional connection. If you live alone, regular phone calls with real conversations and finding ways to be around others in person, even if it's just chatting with your barber or neighbor, helps reawaken parts of you that may have gone quiet for a while. Say this gently: you're still someone worth being close to, and your need for closeness didn't retire when you did. It's not weakness to want warmth, it's human. Quiet for a while. Say this gently: you're still someone worth being close to, and your need for closeness didn't retire when you did. It's not weakness to want warmth, it's human. A small gesture, a shared laugh, a hug that lingers a little longer than usual. These are not just sweet moments, they're medicine for the parts of you that still remember how to feel deeply. Connection is not something you outgrow, it's something you return to. And when you do, your whole self responds, including the part that craves intimacy. Let's talk about something that's often overlooked: getting real, restful sleep, not just lying in bed. As we age, many of us start to believe that waking up tired is just part of getting older, but the truth is, poor sleep quietly chips away at your health, including your hormonal balance. Testosterone, the hormone that plays a big role in male energy and intimacy, is produced mostly during deep sleep. That means if you're falling asleep late, waking up often, or dozing off in front of the TV, you're missing the window when your body is supposed to recharge. Without enough quality sleep, your body can't repair itself, your mind feels foggy, and your desire, in every sense of the word, drops. I want to be clear here. It's not just about the number of hours you sleep, it's about how deep and consistent that sleep is. And the good news is you can influence that more than you think. I remember working with Leonard, a 66-year-old retired electrician from Florida, who came to me not because of sleep complaints, but because he felt like he was losing motivation and didn't feel interested in intimacy anymore. He chalked it up to age, saying, "I guess I'm just past that part of life now." But as we talked, I asked a simple question: when do you actually fall asleep most nights? He said he usually dozed off around midnight, sometimes later, and usually with the TV on, a habit he picked up after retirement. He'd wake up 2 or 3 times a night, sometimes to use the bathroom, sometimes just from light sleep. I explained that this pattern was blocking his body from producing the deep, restorative sleep he needed to maintain hormone levels. Another man I worked with, James, 71, had been waking at 4 a.m. every day and couldn't figure out why he was so tired by lunch. It turned out his sleep routine had no consistency. Some nights he went to bed at 9, some at 1 a.m., depending on his mood. Once he made changes to his evening habits, turning off screens early, dimming the lights, and using the same bedtime. Every night, he noticed a steady improvement. It wasn't instant, but after a couple of weeks his mood improved, his energy came back, and he even joked that he felt 20 years younger in the mornings. What often helps is starting with a simple routine that signals to your body it's time to shut down. One of the easiest and most powerful changes is committing to a consistent bedtime, ideally before 10:30 p.m. An hour before bed, turn off the TV and phone, use soft lighting and do something calming, like reading, listening to music, or taking a warm shower. If you can sleep for 6 to 7 hours without major interruptions, that's already a win. Don't worry about perfection, just focus on small steps toward regular, high-quality sleep. For some men, using blackout curtains, white noise, or limiting fluids an hour before bed also helps with staying asleep through the night. Think of sleep as your body's natural repairman. It can only do the job if you give it quiet and time. You're not losing strength because you're getting old. You're probably just running on an empty battery. Rest is not weakness, it's maintenance. When you sleep well, your body remembers what it's capable of. And that little shift, from just lying in bed to truly resting, can be the spark that brings everything else back online. You don't have to fix it all at once. Just close your eyes a little earlier, a little softer, and give yourself permission to feel better. Here's one that makes a bigger difference than most people expect: reducing alcohol and cutting out smoking, even if you think it's just a little. I know these are personal habits, and I say this with full respect, but the impact they have on your circulation and hormone levels is stronger than many realize. Alcohol may seem like it helps you relax, and in small amounts, it can feel harmless. But the truth is that even moderate drinking lowers testosterone levels and affects sleep quality, which further disrupts hormone production. Smoking, whether it's daily or occasional, restricts blood flow, especially to smaller vessels, and that includes the ones responsible for sexual function. When you combine both habits, you're giving your body a double challenge: weakened blood vessels and lower hormones, and that makes intimacy, both the desire and the performance, harder than it needs to be. You deserve to know that this connection is real and that change is possible. I once worked with a man named Robert, 69, a retired auto mechanic from Pennsylvania. He came to me after noticing that something was off. His energy had dipped, and he said he didn't feel interested in anything, especially not in the way he used to. He wasn't depressed, just flat. In conversation, it came up that Robert had a long-standing habit: 1 or 2 beers with dinner, sometimes a little bourbon on the weekend, and he still smoked a few cigarettes per day. Not a pack, just enough to take the edge off, as he put it. When I gently explained how even these low levels could affect his testosterone, especially over time, he was skeptical at first. He always considered himself healthy. He worked on cars, stayed active, and didn't have major complaints. But he agreed to try cutting back just to see. First it was a 2-week no-alcohol trial, and then he reduced cigarettes to 1 a day. By the 3rd month, he had quit both completely. He told me something I'll never forget. It was like my body remembered what it was made for. He started sleeping better, his morning energy came back, and his interest in closeness, the emotional and physical kind, quietly returned. No medications, no fancy programs, just a choice and a few weeks of patience. What often helps men the most is starting with a short, clear break. Try going 1 full week without alcohol, not forever, just a test. During that time, drink more water, switch your evening habit to a cup of herbal tea, or take a short walk after dinner. If you smoke, reduce your count by 1 per day, or delay your first cigarette by an hour. These changes may seem small, but your body notices. Once you feel the difference, and many do within days, it becomes easier to take the next step. This isn't about willpower, it's about giving yourself a fair chance to feel better and stronger, without anything artificial getting in the way. I like to say that every no to something harmful is also a yes to the version of yourself you still want to be. You don't have to give it all up at once, and no one's asking for perfection. What matters is the direction you choose. If something you've always thought was harmless is quietly holding you back, then saying no isn't punishment, it's a form of freedom. You're not too set in your ways to change. You're just one decision away from showing your body what it's still capable of, and it's probably more than you think. If even one of these tips feels helpful to you, let us know in the comments. Share which one you're willing to try. It might inspire someone else to take that first step too. Subscribe to our channel and click the bell. Here we talk about simple but important actions for your health and confidence. You're not alone. You're stronger than you think, and life keeps going if you keep holding it in your hands.